Hey there, Ghosties. Welcome to episode 78 of the Ghost Lights podcast. This week, we sat down with Matthew Schlief, lighting tech guru and all-around nice guy. Had a great conversation ranging from things like breakfast pizza, what we look for as a lighting designer this first time we walk into a new space, to committing 100% to whatever drives you or lights your fire. Now, Dan, give us War by the Hypnotic Brass Ensemble. Everybody, this is Sam Gilstrap. We are back again to try and record episode 78 of the Ghost Lights podcast. This is go at it number 3 tonight. Twice because Sam didn't know how to talk, and once because technology stabbed us in the back. And Matthew Schlief, our guest, has his finger in the air. Do you want to have something to add there, tech guy?
No, I was holding up fingers because you said twice, so I held up 2, and then you said once, and I held up 1.
Oh, nice. I do that too. I like to make sure we've got the numbers down.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm also one of those people, like when I'm in a group of people and we're talking about somebody and they throw a name out, like I'm supposed to know that person.
That's
like
mean.
The story won't matter if you don't know who this person is. And I'm always the guy that goes like, "Oh, Jake Hardflinger, that guy from North Texas? Yeah, that guy. He's an asshole." Like I always, whoever you throw out to me, they're an asshole. Like, oh no, total jerk. Never looks at you when he talks. And I don't know if you know this about Jake Hardflinger. Uh-huh. He always needs Tic Tacs. He always has them in his pocket, and he never uses them.
Interesting. Yeah. I love Tic Tacs. I love white Tic Tacs. I also,
it's kind of problematic.
When I can remember a person's name and I tell a story, I have a bad habit of thinking that everybody I'm talking to knows who that person is. So I naturally assume I'll be far into a story before I look around and realize that nobody has any clue who I'm talking about.
It's one of my favorite things. I was at the Henrys once, and they were talking about somebody that was about to present. And they kept talking to me because they under the impression that I had worked with this person, and I can't remember their name now. They have since left the state. Mm-hmm. This was like 7 Henry Award shows ago. Mm-hmm. And I go like, "Oh yeah, her? Mean. Terribly mean." Wow. Just took behind my back the entire weekend we were together. And they all thought that we had this like thing, and I was just being a jerk because I don't know this person. Like I don't know this person. That's not going to help me understand the story. And then it came out like a month later that they were really mean to this particular person. They were like, "Oh my God, Sam, you were so right. She was terrible to me." I'm like, "Told you." Who are we talking about again?
Have you ever considered switching that up and just saying everyone you don't know is awesome?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've definitely done that. But it's not nearly as funny for me.
For you.
Yeah.
For you.
Yeah.
There it is right there. Yeah.
You know that Sam Gilstrap guy?
Yeah.
Super mean.
He's
super mean.
So wonderful.
I hear he's really condescending. He does this thing when he gets...
Are we doing the angry one or are we doing the happy one?
We can do it all.
I think we tried both, and
I
tend to have liked your answer better.
Yeah. Well, I just like they were all talking about me as if I'm not in the room or involved in the conversation.
Well, just to that end, I'm somewhat new to Colorado, or at least I still say I'm new to Colorado because I've only been here 3 years, although I've been working here for 6. Mm-hmm. But the first few years, people would talk about the Henrys, and I had no idea what it was, just completely lost on it. And then they were like, "Oh, it's an awards thing," and I went, "Oh, right." Mm-hmm. I just sort of let it at that. And I'm not even trying to be mean. I can see the value in it. I really can see the value in it.
The value in the Henrys.
In the Henrys. Yet. I hate awards things like that. I mean, because they become diluted. Mm-hmm. Like the more you do it, the less it means.
I can't wait till I get a Henry. There's still that child in me that really wants one really badly. Because then Because then,
But now I'll never get one.
yeah, but I'll never get one.
No, I'm saying I'll never get one because I said this.
Oh, well, I mean, I'm in the same boat. I'm in the same mindset because, like, I've thought about it for too long early in my career that now it's like one of the, like, it's not going to happen. So just dial it back. But there's still the kid in me. It's definitely a fun time. It's like when we could do it in person, it was a joy to be invited. I think the last time I was invited, I was told to present, and I came up on stage with a glass of whiskey and sunglasses because I was looking like the guy me and Dan were just talking about. I hear Sam Gilstrap. He's really condescending. Do you remember when he came to the Henrys? He wore his sunglasses inside. You're in the Pace Center, you idiot. Get out of here.
It's so you can see your visions at night, so you can track them.
That's right. See, because they're in Technicolor, baby. This is all 3D. We're here. This is episode 78 of the Ghost Lights podcast. Let's give this a fourth try.
No, all of that's staying in.
Yeah, I know. That could totally stay in. So, over the course of our conversations throughout this evening, we talked about how you got into the tech side of theater. It started out as you were an actor, a performer. You played sports, but you were really kind of pulled in this direction. And then as you were working on it in high school, college, right? It's when you started to find your footing behind in the backstage area. What were some of the things about the tech side of the work that made you feel comfortable, that made you feel at ease?
Oh, so I guess it started when I was building sets. Like my first year in college, I was building sets, and my TD came up to me, the faculty member TD came up and said, you're really quite good at this. Would you like a job in the shop as a TA, a technical assistant? And the TAs, I thought they were super cool. Like they were the ones teaching me how to build the platforms and how to do the walls and all that kind of stuff. And I said, yeah, of course, I would love to do that. So then I did that for sophomore, junior, and senior year. And I loved teaching it, and I got really good at building things and got okay at painting things. Oddly, I never took outside of one sculpture class in grad school. I never once took a formalized art class in my life. Like I never took a drawing class. I never took a painting class, and nothing like that. Every part of art I have sort of taught myself. Outside of art history, I took a couple of those in college, and of course, I love just going to museums. And I was about to say I'm a visual learner, which is really kind of dumb to say because a lot of people are. I guess what it is that earlier when I said I don't remember names very well, I may not remember the name, but I can remember something from when I was a day when I was 26 years old, and literally every single thing I did in that day and every person I looked at and every single thing, I remember all of that. Who they are, it doesn't really matter to me. But I know the aesthetics of my world, and that's what I pay attention to a lot. Yeah. I like shoes.
Ooh. I like how that was a long way to get to shoes, and so I immediately looked at his feet. We got some red, pink, more pink, I guess.
That is red.
They've been in the wash though.
They're just older. But sure, yeah.
They're New Balance sneaks. Yeah. What's your favorite sneaker?
The New Balance 574.
New Balance 574?
574. It's their fashion line.
Oh.
Yeah. It's really nice. They got
That's not the one that Ryan Gosling throws off the balcony in Crazy Stupid Love or whatever.
It could be, but
Steve
I don't know.
No.
Yeah, I don't remember. Ryan Gosling. He's the attractive guy, isn't he?
Super attractive. He just doesn't eat his cereal, but he's super attractive.
Ryan Gosling. Oh, he's in The Notebook.
He is in The Notebook. Oh, my God.
Yes.
That rain seed? Stop it. Rachel McAdams, get out of the way. It should be me in his arms. I just want to be held by Ryan Gosling. Is that so wrong?
Yeah. I guess, no, not at all. I guess to just also kind of round it out is that I found that specifically in lighting, I sort of fell in love with creating the environment that the characters get to live in. and I love creating that environment that they get to live in. Something as simple as just a cup being slightly further over. Usually I'm not that anal retentive about something like that. I like the actors to feel like it is their world to interact with, and the characters are a part of that. So I'm usually not a stickler for like a little zhuzh of furniture or whatever. But as far as the overall feel and essence of the world that they live in, I really enjoy doing that side of theater, and I guess I got pretty good at it. So. Yeah.
I'll say.
So that's how I got there.
When you talk about creating the world,
Yeah.
are you the vast majority of the time given carte blanche at creating that world? What do the parameters look like to that world creation for you?
My favorite part of doing, and I should also say that I love doing live theater. Having seen the film process with major films and also with like low budget films, I don't much enjoy that as much. The film world, I much prefer a one-off arc play to see it all in its entirety at once. Right? I enjoy that part of live theater. So with that being said, ultimately I am subservient to the director. That is, it is their vision. It's their vision of what a show should be. Ideally, and the best directors that I've worked with have inspired me to create something that works for the world of these characters. And it turns out to be what they want. And so, yes, in a way, they trust me to do it, but their inspiration for me doing it was so strong that I really it wasn't hard for me to come up with what the set would be or how the lights would function or interact with the set. The shows that I think are less successful, because I still do very successful shows and less successful shows, and that's just the reality of our world. I think the shows that are less successful are the ones where we're not all wholly on board with the design concept, or maybe the director's not wholly sure what the design concept is, or maybe the director keeps thinking that it's one thing, but it's not actually that. So they're constantly trying to change it all the time and add to it and add to it and add to it, to where then you've lost what it was. And then you're like, and it just turns into a little
So
mess.
is it important for you then that if you were to have your druthers, the director has a hard and fast vision that they are pulling from at the start of rehearsals, the week before tech,
I'm okay with working
the lunch before opening night?
I'm okay with directors wanting to change their minds. I really am. I think the communication needs to happen in a timely manner, for me to effectively give you something of a quality product, if we need to make changes. But I guess what it is that it's really just about communication and constantly staying in communication. And the shows, again, that I've worked on that are the most successful, I have been in communication with the director constantly through the process, and to where nothing surprises us either direction. Meaning, I may have an idea that I propose to them, and I'm never really hurt if they don't want to do it, right? Or if they do want to do it, then huzzah, and we try it and we go from there. If we're in communication enough, we're not going to surprise anybody, and that's I think kind of crucial to a good process.
Absolutely.
And a good show. I think when you're surprising people and you're like, oh crap, now we have to do that, then then people start getting butthurt and they're like, why do I wish they had told me? And that's when you complain when you leave. Like sometimes when you leave theater and you have those little bitch sessions and you're like,
Yes.
right? I love leaving shows where I'm not bitching.
Those are great shows, right?
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's like, wow, this is so much fun to do.
Yeah.
I mean,
Isn't it great when you just show up, rehearse, do your job, and then go home?
Like-
and not have like some axe to grind?
yeah.
I love doing that, and I know I'm not the best at doing that.
And our last show, Land of Milk and Honey, with
me and
the
you
Catamounts,
fought all the time. No.
I think what's funny about that is that I never had all of my bitch sessions had nothing to do with our show.
Mm-hmm.
They were just these things that happened to us, like the generator getting stolen.
Well-
like while the lights are on.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? And just other things that just sort of came up that had nothing to do with the artistic integrity of the show.
That's my favorite thing. How heavy was that thing?
It weighed at least 50 pounds.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
The story about that is like one of our actors had left something at the theater at the space during Land of Milk and Honey, is coming back and sees somebody like hauling a briefcase at a full dead-on sprint down the street, down Wads there. And then she comes back to the theater and everything's dark.
so, and from
I
our
shouldn't laugh because that's terrible. It was not very cost effective.
But from our perspective, the way it happened to us is that we were doing design tech notes after all the actors left. And we're sitting in this and
just
all
talked about the actors you don't like.
No. And we're doing design tech notes, and all the lights are on because we wanted to leave the generator going so that we could see in a building that had no electricity.
That makes sense.
And all of a sudden, in the middle of design tech notes, the lights went out. And so I walk over to the window to see if I can hear the generator outside the window, and I could. Right. And so I'm like, oh, well, the generator's still going. That's strange. So I walk outside, and by the time I get all the way around, it's just not there. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay, that sucks. Our generator got stolen. I look, and there's no cars. There's nothing. There's nobody around. I'm like, huh?
My favorite. There's another favorite part to this whole
Yeah.
story is so that like that next night of rehearsal, we got done with the rehearsal. And we just got done with notes, and people are like getting dressed and leaving, and the power goes out again, and Schlief from the top of the stairs, barrels down the stairs and out the front door to make sure that it was still there. Well, still there.
It was still there, yes.
It ran out of juice.
Well, I got a bike chain and locked that thing out because I was not about to have that happen.
No, definitely not. But it was still. I mean, it's okay to laugh at these things now.
Yeah, of
that
course
we're
now.
past. Now,
No, but I have this vision in my mind now based off of that the person didn't turn it off first. He
No.
unplugged it and then ran away with it on.
Yes.
So he's just run down the street with this thing as loud as possible.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what was so funny. I mean, because I heard it, so I know it was still going. And I don't know.
Hey, he needed
that
to
was-
power his getaway. But bump.
Yeah. So
Should we get William Missouri Downs in here again to help me with jokes? I'm not good.
No, actually, you took his advice because that was less than a 15-minute joke.
Oh, stop it, Dan. At least my tech worked. Made him pout. So you're talking about communication. We're backtracking here. That being crucial to your job going smoothly.
mm-hmm.
Have you had the opportunity to create a show on your own as director and lighting designer?
Yeah, I've had a couple of those. One, I will openly say that I am not a director. I see things in a directorial way, but I don't think that I do not have a skill set to guide actors. No. So I'll just put that out there. And I think everybody that works with me is fully aware of that. Because I'm like, just stand there. I don't care what your motivation is. Just walk over and stand there. That's where the light is. Oh, no, I'm kidding. I did a show back when I was in Houston at Rice University. It was performed at the theater that I worked at Rice University. It was called Synesthesia. It was essentially rock lighting to classical music. And I say classical music, nothing like Beethoven or Bach. It is a group called Two Star Symphony. I saw them. They did an original.
Sounds like a Yelp review.
Oh, no, they're much better than just 2 stars. But,
Okay.
yeah. They're a small 4-piece and 2 violins, a cello, and a viola. Yes. 2 violins, a cello, and a viola. Yeah. And I saw them do an original score to the silent film The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, which is an old 1930s German expressionism film. It's wackadoo. Wow. A lot of fun. And what I noticed was they were playing it live, and I'm watching this film, and I noticed they didn't have any music stands, and they were just in the dark, and I was like, that is awesome. And the way that they learn their music with each other is very much like a rock band, in the sense that they just learn the songs and learn the part that they're going to play, but none of it is actually like sheet music or anything. And so to call it classical music isn't necessarily the right thing. They play classical instruments, but they do their own music. And what I became fascinated with is that I can light them in any way. As a lighting designer, or the lighting designer part of me, the bane of my existence in doing musicals are music stand lights. I hate them. I cannot make them go away. They're just atrocious. But that's anyway. And I do the best I can, and I let it go as much as I can. But this group, they don't need music stand lights because they don't even have music stands. So I can then light them however I want. And so I met with them, and I started talking with them, and I became friends with them. And we did a show where I brought in tons of mover lights and all kinds of basically rock and roll lighting, and did 10 of their pieces. And I did a lighting design for 10 of their pieces. And it was a free concert to the community.
That's great.
It was sold out both nights, which was a lot of fun. And we ended up doing a Synesthesia 2 Electric Boogaloo.
I love that.
The reason it was called synesthesia is because I also was kind of fascinated by what that is. Synesthesia. Do you know what that is?
No.
It is a brain. It is a I don't want to call it a disorder, but it is when synapses in your brain fire for different reasons, meaning you taste the color blue. Meaning if your eyes see blue, it causes a taste in your mouth, or the memory of a taste. Or if you hear a particular note, you see a color. And so things are firing in strange ways and making connections in strange ways. And the reason that I called it synesthesia is because 2 of the songs that we did, I lit live, and they composed it live. So it was abstract, improvisational music, and at the same time I was improvising the lights, and we were both responding to each other in a different way, even though that's not exactly what synesthesia is. But anyway, it just thought it was fun.
That sounds like an amazing experience. Talk about communication. Like that is some symbiotic relationship, as it were. I mean, to feel out what you're going to do lighting wise, and have that, I'm sure, be infused by also what you're listening to, and them playing what they're seeing.
That's exactly right.
That's beautiful.
It was a lot of fun. It was very difficult and kind of nerve-wracking.
I can't imagine. I mean, I can barely walk, chew bubblegum, and host a podcast at the same time.
Wow.
Yeah, it's hard to do those things, and that doesn't involve like having. How big is this orchestra?
It was there was
6 piece?
It was
4
piece, but for this it was actually an 8 piece because they expanded to 2-star orchestra, which added 4 more members. So there were 8. There were 2 percussionists, a clarinet, a bass, and then the 4 of them.
Yeah, trying to choreograph something like that on the fly with more than just one person, like to worry about yourself, seems overwhelming.
Yeah. I mean, I think that both sides of us were trained enough to know their part, but and so because you know what you're contributing, I think it's a little bit easier because you don't have to be distracted by the things that you're not contributing. You know what I mean?
No, totally.
Like
yeah.
if you do, so I talk with my students a lot about I need them to be the best cog that they can be. You are nothing but a cog in a machine. And while it sounds bad,
Yeah.
you know, to say that someone's nothing but a cog in a machine, the artwork is the machine, and your cog is very crucial.
Yeah.
It's really important that you fulfill the job of that cog.
Yeah.
And I like to think of theater and the performing arts as a singular work of art where you only have a brush that can do blue paints and you only have a brush that can do red paints, but we have to make one painting together. So your part really is important in that.
Where do you teach again?
Oh, I teach at Colorado Mesa University in Grand Junction, Colorado.
Oh, thanks for making the trek out here.
Oh, yeah, I had to get past the mudslides.
That's cool.
Climate change.
That's right. That's what boots are for.
Boots. I'm
Yeah.
gonna trek it.
Yeah.
No.
He's huffing. He's got his backpack and his in a koozie for his beer.
I do have a koozie for my beer. It's a Meow Wolf koozie.
I just love a man that comes prepared for a weekend or a weekday, as it were.
I have this koozie, and this koozie is very important because it is the last of my neoprene koozies, which, for those people who are not koozie aficionados, a neoprene koozie is superior to all other koozies.
Whoa, have you had a metal koozie from?
I have.
Yes.
Yes.
So you say the neoprene's better?
Yes.
Keeps a beer colder? Or
No.
No.
So what makes it good?
Yeah.
Got it. It can fit in my pocket. I can use it pretty much anywhere, and it keeps things colder than just the foam ones. The metal ones still have a volume. They take up space. That's no fun.
Well, I've definitely stopped paying attention. I could put it in my pocket. I can put lots of things in my pocket. Doesn't make it elite.
It most certainly does.
I mean, the ability to have it is
At any
wherever
time.
you want.
Well, if you've got
Yeah.
a backpack, you don't need to put it in your pocket now, do you?
I can see that.
Yeah. Check and mate.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess I lost.
We were talking about teaching.
Oh, yeah, we
And
were.
not the most special of koozies, which apparently is neoprene.
Not anymore.
Scoff, eye roll.
Yeah. Not anymore.
Not anymore. That's right. You'll learn.
I'm still on board with you. I like that.
Oh, whatever, Dan. You know, you've been against me since your tech went down. Now pout for
Only
me.
because you keep calling me out.
I do. Anyway, teaching.
What about it?
When you talked about trying to get them to be the best cog they can be, I think you had said that maybe it's not the nicest thing to say. I think I agree with you to an extent as a football coach, and as a guy that's coached a lot of different sports and has been a teacher. There is some type of fitting in that should happen for everyone involved, an understanding of role, expectation, their own abilities in order to get to where the group is trying to be steered. When you're working on a project, like say putting on a show, for example, there are responsibilities, roles that are open. That's why we audition and we ask on the sheet, will you accept any role? Because we're looking to see who are willing to fill these things in. And now, obviously, for someone on the tech side, that's going to be different. You're applying for a specific job based on your understanding of the skills, so on and so forth. But finding a way to fit into those things in order to create a piece of art or just put on an art that's already been, I guess, written, if we're not necessarily creating it. But anyway, I'm rambling. It's all a creation. But there is something to that idea. Being a cog in the machine, you're still allowed your individuality in the process of creating art. You just have a specific slot to fill.
Yeah. I mean, everybody has their own artistry that they bring to their part. I'm not going to be so controlling and saying you have to do it this way from a stage management perspective, right? You need to do your blocking notes in this particular way. No, I mean, ultimately, it doesn't really matter how you do it, so long as when the director needs to know where a person's supposed to be, you have that information.
Yeah.
Right, whatever that may be. And the same thing with designers. I think that obviously you do have to turn in certain things by a certain date. You do have to kind of stay ahead. You do have to kind of keep your eye on the prize the whole time and make sure things are working. And I would say there are ways that are better than others to do that. But yeah, I mean, everyone has their own individuality within it. Another way of thinking of it too is to think of like those open face watches where you see all the cogs going through. And then I think it's in a way to think of it that makes it a little bit more palatable too, because you actually get to see the importance of that cog within the watch face and how it contributes to everything functioning smoothly and well.
Yeah.
And I bet most of the people that listen to this, they are theater people to some extent, so they already know a lot of this. But I will say for a vast majority of audiences that come to see shows, they don't know a lot of the work that went into that show, right? They don't know how many hours were put into it. They don't fully get all of it.
Yeah.
Especially even shows that seem like there's a lot of improvisation in it. When in fact that improvisation has been very specifically rehearsed.
Yeah.
And is guided. Unless of course it truly is an improv show. But you know what I mean.
But in those cases, it's like
That's still
we're working the Herald. There are still practiced technique over the course of years, knowing how to really say as yes and how that is supposed to maneuver. There are still roles and responsibilities within that group.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're seeing an improv show, and all I did was say, "You're at a Walmart," and they did this whole scene. But there's stuff they've worked.
Yeah.
Ad nauseum, just playing games and games and games, building up skill sets to be able to create anything out of that. When your work as a lighting designer, one of the things that's really cool, and I'm glad I have you on here, is I want to just kind of ask you, what are some of the things that you take into account when you walk into a new theater? Like,
are we like first time in a space?
So like we walk. Did you get to see the Elaine Wolf Theater today?
I didn't. I haven't seen the theater here.
It's
No.
pretty standard proscenium, but it's got an elevated stage. Bowl soups up. There's a row above that where people can sit, but there's also places to lights, and above that, right above the stage, they can hang stuff.
Like balcony rails? Is that okay? Got it. Cool.
What are the types of things that you're
There is this fantastic meme that I saw during the pandemic, and it was so funny. And I emailed it out to all of my lighting design students instantly, and it was like a picture of some people from the 1940s, like a black and white photo of people from the 1940s all looking up into the sky. And so the vantage point of the camera is looking down from the sky. And the meme, of course, said lighting designers when they walk into a concert or something like that, which is so funny because like you walk in the door and every person that works in the lighting industry just does this. For those of you on this podcast, I'm looking up into the air at the ceiling and just staring around. Yeah. And that's what we do is that we assess what fixtures are up there, where they're located, how they're pointed, like what is this going to do? How can you do this? And so, yeah, I mean, there's a puzzle that we can put together and understand it. When I walk into a new venue, I'm going to back up one other thing too. The first time you do a light design in a new venue is always a series of failures. No matter how much drafting you look at, no matter how much photometrics you want to get into, right? You still do not know what it's going to look like until the day that you turn on the lights and you start looking at it with the lights on and the board and you go, oh, Oh, that's not going to work at all.
Yeah, the first thing you have to do in a new venue is find the production manager and say, what do I need to know?
Yeah. I mean, but even in the process of doing that, you really won't know it until you turn the board on and you actually start making the lights fire, like focus day, you know. And they're like, okay, let's do a channel check just so you can see, and they're going to be all over the place. But in that process of that channel check, you go, oh, I really don't need those 5 lights at all. Huh. Well, maybe we'll just move those. Yeah. I'll find another place for that. Yeah. Obviously, you need inventory lists and stuff like that. But it's so getting past that first time at a new venue. After the first time, I'm usually good to go. I know what I can do within that space. I also like pushing the boundaries of what I'm allowed to do. As a designer, I will always ask for the most expensive, the most everything I could ever ask for. It is the technical director / the production manager's job to tell me no. And if you don't tell me no, I'm fully on board with getting it.
Yeah.
Like I fully expect that it is occurring. But that's actually kind of a good thing because I want it to be the best it can be. I want it to be this amazing show, whether that's from a spectacle or whether that really is just nuanced and subtle, you know, and it's important to push for those kinds of things. So anyway, after that first time, I'm like, oh, okay, maybe now we can think of doing lights in this way. And I'm much better at it the second time around or the third time around in working in a particular venue.
Yeah.
I break down my lighting into 4 categories, of course. I have actor lighting. I have ambience. I have what I call architectural lighting because I think it is important for us to light the set almost as much as it is the actors. And then the 4th is just what I call CYA lights, which cover your ass. You know, you put up a lot of others that give you options so that you don't have to wait. Because if you get into a tech process and you decide, oh, I do want a light here, and you want to add a light, well, I could have added like the rest of the inventory and hung it and done something with it. And now when the director goes, hey, do we have a light over here? You're like, oh, how about this one? Oh yeah, that's great. And you're like, sweet. I don't have to hang another light or and then wait till tomorrow. You know,
for the next request.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, nice.
I mean, it's already there. So yeah, I pretty much, if you have an inventory of lights, it's in the air.
Nice.
Somewhere. I know it sucks.
What is that
Doesn't
adjustment period like when you stepped into, say, a barn, which is not designed for putting on a show?
Yeah.
What is that adjustment like on the fly of like, where am I putting stuff? How do I do this?
So when Amanda and I first started talking, my first question always to a director is, when is this play? Like, what's my schedule?
Yeah.
Second question was, does it have electricity in the building? And she said no. And I went, oh. Which completely changes everything. It's like,
no, I'm booked.
No, well, not even
Yeah,
that. It just sets up a new challenge. I'm like, how am I going to light this?
Yeah.
What are we going to use?
Talk about pushing the boundaries, yes?
Yeah, and we used a lot of fire, which actually made me happy because I do love fire. I think it's beautiful.
That's another good smell.
Oh,
When you put out a match,
yes.
I love that.
A match going out.
Yeah.
I was going to say kerosene, not so much.
No, definitely not. No, no.
But anyway, we used fire in that. So
Napalm in the
that-
morning, that's always a good smell. Wait, sorry. Let's go surfing. Keep talking.
In that first question to her, like, does it have electricity? And then you're asking, like, how do I go into that space? When I visited the space was when I knew what we were doing for the lighting. Just walking in, literally, I said, oh, okay,
Done.
it's done. I know exactly what I'm doing. I can't light the actors for this show. I can't do it. You're walking too far. The lights are going to be too spread out. Power will be very difficult to run in this particular way. Most of it's going to take place here. And then on top of that, there's no point in trying to light the actors as if they're doing a theatrical presentation, because what Amanda and I love about doing shows with Catamounts is that we're not necessarily doing theater where people are sitting facing one direction. They know that lights will hit them. They wear these costumes and the sets do this and ja. And that's theater, and we're all safe in our little thing, right? Yeah. And that's not the kind of theater that she and I like making. So then why would we want to present lighting that is in that vein? Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So then when we ended up, basically I just lit the canopy. Yes, I ended up throwing one light for actor, technically 2 lights for actors. But it was just huge. It was like a huge area, and it was really more area lighting than it was actor.
Technically, there was 3 because you gave your boys some lanterns, and I look good. I look good in camp light.
Yeah,
baby.
And then we had battery powered camp lights and all kinds of stuff. And yes, so I put that into the world of practicals.
Yes.
So there's lots of practicals.
Did you ask for like 4 generators? Or did you just come in and be like, okay, we're just going to have 4 lights for this show?
So Amanda and I started off wanting and ordering a solar-powered, an industrial LiPo battery generator that was not gas-powered. It was like you charge it, right? And it carries a charge. And it would do 1,200 watts. 1,200 watts per hour. So that was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And so we were excited about that. It limited significantly how many LEDs I could use. There was very little data on how many hours you get of 1,200 watts per hour. Is it just 1? I know. But then once we ordered it, she got the solar panels in, and then the battery just wasn't showing up, and it didn't show up in time for the show. And so we went to Lowe's, and we got a gas-powered generator, and it's a quiet version. It saved her a ton of money. I mean, it was literally a third of the cost of this other thing. And so it saved her a lot. It saved the company a lot of money. She sent the other thing back and canceled that order. We wanted to do it because we wanted to be green, and it's also totally silent. Like, you can't hear it at all. There is no sound to be made. This gas-powered one, while it's quiet, it needs to be put around the corner. You know what I mean? It's like, so did that? Yeah. And I knew their budget, and I knew how much many lights I was bringing based on the original thing. And even though I added some lights later on, and we had some sound added into it, the generator that we got could do 1,600 watts output. So.
I asked because you said you always come in and you ask for as much as you possibly can. And I did see one of the previews of this show.
Yeah.
And I was just, I have the light, the design in my head, and I'm curious how much of the design you specifically said, this is exactly what I want, or was it based on how much power you were able to bring into the space?
So much of it was. So in a way, I was kind of more than the designer. I sort of had to be my own master electrician. So when I wear multiple hats and I'm my own TD or I'm my own master electrician, I'm already arguing with myself, so I don't ask anything because I know what's real and what isn't. If I am only a designer and other people, I'm like sending in my designs and talking with directors, that's usually when I ask for a lot. So yeah, it's all of my designs. So when I was working at Texas Tech, this is funny.
You were a Red Raider too?
I was a Red Raider too. I taught there for 5 years. The technical director, I had 2 technical directors. One of them lives in Denver now. His name is Jared Canada. He works for George Lacey Sales. He's really wonderful. And then the other one is Jared Roberts, who is still currently at Texas Tech. Both of those technical directors, every single time I turned in a scenic design, I would go have my green light meeting with them, and I was over budget by like 200%. I'm like, yes, we have to cut back. How do we maintain the integrity
Just
for
wait.
a third of the cost.
Is that your go-to guilt?
Yeah. How do I keep the integrity? But you know, a TD's go-to is like, well, just cut that thing. No, you can't just cut that thing.
Yeah.
Like that thing. It's like that's the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. That defeats the purpose.
We need the board to operate the show, sir.
No, I mean, even if it was something like James and the Giant Peach, they'd be like, well, just cut the peach.
Whoa.
Well, then what's the rest of the set?
Can we cut James then?
Exactly.
Well, just wait till Texas Tech joins the SEC, and then you'll get that money. You'll get that green line money.
I hope they never do that.
Oh no, it's
is it already happening?
I mean, Texas and Oklahoma are leaving the Big 12 at the end of 2025. This just dropped, so I'm losing a lot of my ghosty audience right now.
Oh.
But they're leaving because their TV contract expires.
And just to confirm, that's the Super Energetic Conference? Is that what
Yes, super. It's also the Southern. I don't know. Southern
Southeastern.
Southeastern?
Yeah.
Southeastern. That's right. Southeastern Conference. I don't know.
I like Super Energetic.
You set him up
Super
to be
energetic.
able to do it.
Super energetic is much better. We've been playing with abbreviations while we've been looking at tech issues. What's BBYO again?
That is big bad yo.
Yeah, Big Bad Yo.
Big bad yo.
Big Bob Yo.
Something like that. I don't remember anymore.
Yeah, Bobby Big Yo. I don't know. we're off the rails here. But anyway, you'll if you go back to, I'm sure in about 10 years, there's only going to be 3 major conferences, and if you go back to Texas Tech, you might get your money. That's what I'm saying.
I'm not gonna ever go back to Texas Tech.
Yeah, Red Raiders, they suck. Boo.
No, it's really more like Lubbock.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lubbock. Isn't there just the college?
Yeah. They have a Torchy's taco though.
Oh, in Lubbock?
Yeah.
Get out of town.
It's
Torchy's
really
is
good.
great. It's
I
a
love
very popular
Torchy's.
taco spot.
Yeah. The Torchy's fails in Colorado. Its failure is this. They seem to think that breakfast tacos are only desired on Friday and Saturdays.
Whoa.
I know. I
You
don't
had
understand.
me at breakfast taco.
I-
It's a Monday.
yeah.
I could do one of those right now.
I do breakfast tacos every day if possible.
Yeah.
But and also Colorado loves the breakfast burrito.
Yes, we
I don't
do.
want
We
a
gave birth
burrito.
to the breakfast
I don't
burrito.
want a burrito. I want 3 breakfast tacos.
Even though that it would equate to a single burrito.
It actually wouldn't, because a burrito has a whole slew of tortilla that's unnecessary that I tear off. Like there are portions of the tortilla that are unused that are just fold, and I kind of tear them away.
Dan,
and toss
cut
it.
his mic.
No. It's a decent argument against the burrito, but you're not arguing against the burrito. You're arguing against whoever poorly wrapped it,
Sure.
Definitely. That person
Sure.
should be fired.
because
Yeah.
the breakfast burrito is the single greatest food on earth.
I think it's a breakfast taco, but I come from Texas.
I think they're similar,
They're almost identical,
but
except
it's
the
much
taco is
easier to
smaller.
eat.
Now, have
And it's
any,
not,
of
and
you,
it's not closed.
have any of you had a breakfast taco in a hard shell?
Oh no! Why would you do that?
A hard shell?
Yeah.
Although I
What
did,
if it's a Doritos Los hard shell taco?
Get out of town. I'm going to cut your mic.
Don't cut my mic. I'm the host of the podcast. How dare
I
you?
did have an idea, and I don't understand why pizza places aren't open 24/7 and or at least in the morning and offer breakfast pizzas, because
would
I
you
would
put on a breakfast
totally
pizza?
eat. Instead of the red sauce,
Okay.
you do like gravy, and it's a biscuit crust, and then you
Oh.
could do bacon and some eggs, scrambled eggs on it. That'd be really good, right?
How about this?
You could do a chicken and waffle one with a waffle crust with syrup and fried
There's
chicken
at
on
least
it.
one spot
Is there?
in Denver that does breakfast pizzas. I will have to try to see if I can figure it out. It was like 7 years ago, legit breakfast pizza.
Well, they're clearly
I
out of business.
want-
I think we
I
make
want-
the move. We drop doing podcasts. We stop doing theater.
No,
Hear me out.
Okay,
we stop
sure.
doing theater. We open up our own breakfast pizza spot.
no,
We'll call it MSD.
no. Not doing it.
All right, then.
We can sell the idea to somebody.
Well, I guess it is
I
our
think we just
intellectual
gave it
property.
away.
It's our intellectual property.
Well, now it's our intellectual.
Well,
property.
how about this? Ghosties, if you go out there and you decide, I'm going to make my own breakfast pizza joint,
Yeah.
please give the 3 of us a discount. Like maybe, 50% off every time we show up.
Or at least just like Monday's free.
Monday's free.
Yeah.
Because, God damn it, breakfast is good anytime, all the time.
Okay, so and not to continue on this pizza thing, but I just got to say, if you did like an English muffin crust and then you do an eggs Benedict pizza, wow.
Shut the fuck up. I want this now.
I would
This is
eat
really
the hell
good.
out of that.
Yeah, you
I
would. You would eat the hell out of that. You would eat the
Can
hell out of
you-
it. What?
Can you make that large of a English muffin? Though?
I don't know.
No, I mean, no. Listen, we would not go. We would not spit in the face of God in terms of doing this. There would definitely be an appropriate scale to which we would do this. Like, you're not going to get a 16-inch or a mother load from Pudge Brothers size pizza.
Are you saying you would get like a 3-inch pizza?
No. There's a scale that we could do this to.
Oh,
so you
got
got your English muffin, right? It's a standard 3-inch circumference
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
I'd say we could bump those numbers up to 6, maybe 12.
I bet we could bump it up to 18.
I mean, yeah, but I don't want to go. I don't want to go crazy here.
Why not?
Have you ever seen an English muffin larger than said size of English muffin?
Eddie Lizard.
I haven't, but I bet you could just take the dough, right? I mean, I bet it could work.
I think we need to check with any of the bakers in our audience.
Deaf.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Did anyone catch my Eddie Izzard joke? He's an English muffin. Scrumptious.
Me?
No, you're not English. You're not English. All right, so let's get back to talking technical theater here.
Sure.
I want to use all of this, by the way.
Yeah.
Aside from me now being starving, we worked together first with United Flight 232.
232.
Then we did the Rough. And on the Rough, we did this thing called Bone Phones.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the other show I directed, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
What? First of all, did you? I can't remember. And this is a legit
Yeah,
question. Sure. Did you create that technology? Or was that something that you got hip to?
No. Okay, so here's how it began. And it was a show that ultimately I directed it. But it was a collaboration with some former grad students of mine at Texas Tech. We applied to do a show at the Prague Quadrennial. And the Prague Quadrennial is a theatrical design festival that is hosted in Prague, Czech Republic, once every 4 years. And so we applied to the they call it the PQ. We applied to the PQ Performance Festival, where we would then present a show. Our application to this the show was called Morning, Noon, Evening, Night. And it was precipitated on the idea that the moment in time when you view something drastically affects your perception of that thing. So when you see something happening at 6 a.m. or at noon or at 6 p.m. or at midnight, then your idea about that thing is going to be very different. Your environment's going to be very, very different. You're going to hear different sounds. You're going to see different lighting. It's going to be radically different all the way through. And then one of the students I guess two of the students talked to me about, this idea of bone conduction headphones. And I was like, what are those? And then they got me into it a little bit more and explained it. And just for our audience, so they know, bone conduction headphones are essentially wraparound style headphones that go over the tops of your ears, but instead of covering your ear holes or having little buds that slot into your ear, they are pads that rest just in front of your ear on your skull, right above where your jaw connects to your skull. Right? And so there's a little bone right there. And they send micro vibrations into your skull that your brain interprets as sound. And basically what it's doing is it's bypassing the cochlea and activating the nerves that then send a signal to the brain that it is hearing a sound. So in doing a lot of research and learning about bone conduction headphones and also practicing with them to kind of see what they sound like and what kind of a range do you have and like what are the high notes like, what are low notes like, one of the things I discovered is how much hearing we actually do that we don't actually hear. There are tons of vibrations constantly that our body is recognizing, and our brain is turning those vibrations into notes that we perceive in our head as being a sound, when in fact our ear didn't hear it in any way. To some extent, bone conduction headphones can also help hearing impaired people because they're not suffering the issue of the eardrum not functioning correctly. It's bypassing that and going directly to the brain, which is pretty interesting. I am not a doctor, so I'm not going to sit there and say that you can fix hearing problems with bone conduction headphones. But what we decided in this show was that it was a show about two people, and they were having disagreements within their relationship. And we did a sound design where we projected the thoughts of those characters into the audience through bone conduction headphones, while at the same time hearing what they were actually saying with their regular ears. And the audience walked around. We built a mobile sound unit with a battery in the back that powered the transmitter. The bone conduction headphones were connected to a wireless receiver that sent the signal, that received the signal. So the audience was totally mobile in how they did that. And so, yes, to some extent, that was the precursor to the Rough, which I did not direct at all. That was all Jess. So, yeah.
Nice. And it was such a unique way to have things be heard and to be experienced. I mean, because especially, for those of you who weren't able to go to that show, you were still able to hear things normally. There was just this added piece to that puzzle, and being out there on this golf course, which, was so easy to light. I don't even know why they had you in. It was... Yeah.
It was very dark.
It was very dark.
Yes. The sun did not set the way we thought it would.
No. We'll never forgive the sun for that. Or Ra, the sun god.
But, I think the most interesting thing about it is the new iteration of these bone conduction headphones and what I'm doing with that. And I'm working with another colleague at Colorado Mesa who's a dancer, and specifically a tap dancer. And we are working on a new project that we're calling Terra that involves my fascination with listening to people wearing tap shoes in places where they're not supposed to wear tap shoes. Meaning, people always have tap shoes and they go out onto this specific tap floor and all the tapping sounds all the same. But what's really interesting is when they walk off stage and have to walk on the tile floor, and then they cut across this wood thing, and then they have to walk across the concrete, and the next thing you know, they're in the dressing room and they can take off their taps, right? All of those other sounds are amazing. Taps sound awesome on concrete. They're super slick. Don't get me wrong. It's not like it's easy to do this.
No.
But I became really fascinated with taps on different surfaces. But then we also wanted to have the other issue I have with watching tap dance and seeing it live is that both the sound of the taps and the music is coming at me to the same place, which is my ears. So my ears it sets up a competition between hearing the music and hearing the taps. But what if the only thing that you were hearing with your ears through your eardrum were the tap shoes, and the music was being sent via bone conduction directly into your head? So now you hear those taps perfectly, exactly as you're supposed to hear them. And so it makes a way for you to listen to things in a different way. And it's really beautiful, and it functions really well. Yeah. So
before we transition...
You had a question, Dan.
Do you, Dan?
Yeah, what was the decision to put the taps... not have the taps be what's going straight into your head and the music be what you're hearing externally?
Because if you're watching taps, you're going to hear them.
Got it, because the visual part.
Yeah, they're right there. So it's not like you couldn't hear that.
Yeah.
I mean, if I put the taps into the bone conduction, my ears would hear both the taps and the taps in the bone conduction. As opposed to, I just keep the ear for taps and the other thing for music, because it's not like I have the band there. If it were a live band, it would probably be very different. Yeah.
One of the things that as we've been talking here, it feels like you've got this pulse of like technology changes in regards to, I mean, I wouldn't say
Yeah,
that,
I know what it is. Yeah.
yeah. And
I keep up with it.
So do you feel that technology makes your job easier? Or do you feel like there should be a balance between the two? Like, I mean, I know obviously lights are a form of technology and we can do more with some of the stuff that's coming out. But I mean, you do a lot of different things from a tech standpoint.
Ultimately, technology is the future of our industry outside of the realm of the actors. We will always need the actors, right? They're the storytellers. And don't get me wrong, we could do CGI actors, but then you're just watching a movie and they're still doing something, and that's not really the same thing, right? We need the liveness of people. Ultimately, our stories are about people, so to have people tell the story of people makes a lot of sense, and the connection to people was better.
Yeah.
But with that being said, technology will change how we see it and what's going to happen and how we view it and what's possible. And of course, technology is not going to stop, right? It's going to keep advancing. It's going to keep getting cheaper for this and this and this. I mean, it's why everybody wants to do projection design. Projection design. And don't get me wrong, I've done a lot of projection design and I love doing it. But I'm also like one of the first designers like in the meeting to say, how about we don't do projections? Right? Because, I mean, it's got to be right. You have to really commit to it and be good at it. To make it something wonderful. And if you're not going to do that, if you're just going to have a screen in the back, then you might as well just like, I don't know, do a PowerPoint and read from it. It's the same it's just boring. It's lame. I've seen it. And I don't
funny
need
you should mention that. I do have an article I'd like to read everybody now. Before America.
To answer the question about technology, I believe the future of lighting is that all lighting instruments will become projectors. Meaning instead of 80 lights in the air, it will be 80 projectors in the air. Because a projector is a lighting instrument. I mean, that's all it is, right?
Yeah.
And so if I can make a round dot of white light, it looks just like a light. You can't tell the difference. I don't know if you saw the opening Tokyo.
No, I don't.
The opening ceremonies of the Tokyo.
Don't watch
Did you
the
see
Olympics.
It? No, okay. So the opening ceremonies in Tokyo, there are these two huge diagonal shafts of light that are like shining on to these athletes, right, that are running on a treadmill or whatever. And it looked like two huge shafts of light. No, they were projectors because eventually that faded into then dissolving and doing all of these cool swirls and all kinds of stuff. Yeah. But you didn't know that.
Yeah.
Right. So the future is that lighting instruments will go away and they'll just all be projectors and they'll function like lights. We can make them function just like a light. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, we still need QLab.
QLab will just mod.
Okay.
They'll just change and develop and continue doing what they're going to do. This is a long way out.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Mind you, this isn't like in 10 years. This is going to be like 50 years probably. Just like they were doing theater without lights.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden we do them with lights. Or even the switch between incandescent and LED.
Did you see the movie Tombstone?
Oh, yeah.
One of my favorite things about that movie is I've watched it a zillion times.
I'll be your Huckleberry?
Well, I mean,
oh, sorry.
Of course.
Okay.
Matthew, you and I started a game we never got to finish. A Game for Blood, if I remember correctly. Anyway.
I don't remember that movie that good. But
okay. I definitely ad-libbed an extension of that line. But anyway.
Yeah.
It would appear my hypocrisy only goes so far. I know a lot of those lines. Anyway, there's a scene where they're doing Faust.
Yeah. I remember that. Yeah.
And it's so cool because there's this bartender in front of a light with a bottle of bourbon, and he's shaking the light, the bottle in front of the light as it plays onto the screen or onto the actors, and it makes it look like they're dancing in fire. And it was just like I just loved that little piece of ingenuity to this technical application, like they need the light.
Yeah.
How can we make it look like fire? Bottle of bourbon. And now that's changed. Now we actually have lights that can flicker and so on and so forth. I think it's, and so, I mean, and I threw in QLab to sound like that's the only technical term I know. And sometimes people complain about it. So, but anyway, it's interesting to see how that portion of the job is going to be changing. And I mean, I think you're right. Well, you have I should say, in terms of the mindset, like I'm going to come up and I'm going to ask for the most expensive thing the vast majority of the time because it's going to give me a lot of options. You've got a counterpoint.
Not so much a counterpoint, but it's not even so much also a technical thing as much as it is just a shift in how we tell our stories. I think the future of theater, the future of our storytelling will be more customizable. I think people are going to have it. There's going to be an intimacy. I think there's going to be flexibility in the audience making decisions about how the play goes, about how the story shifts and changes. I think there's a level of improvisation that performers will do. And with that, from the technical side of things, like I was saying with my CYA lights, what we will have to have is a smorgasbord of options. And we shift as this audience, these three audience member want this one actor to change in some way. So now we're constantly flowing and changing and ebbing and flowing with our storytelling. Almost in a game format, but I don't want to call it a game per se.
No.
But have an impact. Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
In the words of DMX, it is not a fucking game. R.I.P. Rest in peace, DMX. When we get to the stage in the podcast, I always ask, what is that ghost light that you wish was left on for you, that you'd like to leave on for your next generation? I feel like this is something that you probably offer a lot as a teacher. But what's that like from this last semester? If they got one thing from you, what's that last piece?
I guess there's so many little tidbits of information, like you said, that I'm constantly trying to give to my students or to say to younger theater professionals to sort of, I don't want to say renew their belief that it's going to be okay or that they'll succeed or whatever. But ultimately, the main thing, the thing that I want to leave the ghost light on for, well, first, I want to go back to the ghost light. There's no superstition. It's just a freaking safety mechanism. Just going to put it out there. All right. And then with that being said,
I like how we waited an hour for you to destroy the entire premise of this podcast.
But it's not.
Throw away the mics. We're done.
And here's the safety mechanism. And that is make the choice. Choose to do it. And if you choose to do it and be good at it and give it effort and give it your life and give it your all, and you can be successful. And if you want that to be monetarily successful, you can make that path. If money is your goal, you can make it in the theater industry. If art is your goal, then make it that. If just getting hired is your goal, then make it that. But ultimately, just make the decision to do it. Commit to it. Yeah, commit to it.
Yeah,
So.
that's great advice. And after you said that, I think never mind, Dan. Keep the mics. We'll keep the podcast going. Yeah, it's been an absolute joy talking to you. You are so much fun to talk to. Just as like it's been been great getting to know you over the last couple of months when we were working together so closely on Land of Milk and Honey. I always feel like you.
It's fun, and I also had no idea what to expect.
Yeah, well, I mean that's what I like
half
about
the fun.
the podcast.
Yeah.
I like having people on and just kind of. I literally will ask you one guaranteed question and then riff until I want to end it, and then I ask you the Ghost Lights question, and that's pretty much what I try to do the entire time. Sometimes we talk about breakfast pizza. Have you ever had bed pizza?
Like pizza in my bed?
Yes.
I don't eat in bed. That's gross.
To each their own. Yes, Dan.
I forgot to hit record. We're going to have to start over.
And on that note, I'm looking for a new producer. I don't really care anymore about Dan. He's dead to me. We've done this a lot tonight, but I think we finally got some good stuff. Matthew Schlief, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Thank you.
And now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go down to the creek and start walking on water. Dan, do the damn thing. So my follow-up to that is, what should I just start fresh?
Start an intro, say Dan fucked us, and we'll go from the beginning.
First of all, Dan did not do that because Dan is a gentle lover. And
wait a second, you
What?
can be a gentle lover and still fuck somebody.
oh no, absolutely, absolutely. But I'm saying like
I just don't want anybody thinking that Dan and I did it because I'm not in a relationship with Dan.
no, absolutely not.
Don't worry, Dan doesn't do it unless he's in a relationship.
On a side note, I downloaded 2 of those albums and they're fucking great.
Oh, awesome! Yeah,
Hypnotic
brass ensemble, unbelievable. They're
I
so
love
great.
them.
they're great. That whole genre is
When I
awesome.
listened to the podcast and I heard that song, I was like, "That's a fucking cool song."
That's a great
It reminds me of this band called Lettuce that I really like. Yeah. So
Dan really loves lettuce.
Yeah.
Oh, great.